the 1974 album by King Crimson, Red. This is an album let's describe. I'd give it a health warning. Be prepared for an onslaught of the senses when listening to side one, particularly of Red. And at its conclusion, just lay back, shattered and warmed by music that's breathtaking, dark, sad and exhilarating, as Messrs Fripp, Wetton and Bruford and a few others give you, the listener, a sample of their technical ability and their synchronization. This is a heavy progressive rock album with jazz fusion, whatever that means. So to track one, Red, it is really an explosion of the senses. Instrumental, but with heavy chord playing and an atmosphere full of lead breaks with a powerful bass and the extraordinary, monstrous driving drums, awesomely played by Bruford. It's 6 minutes, but at 2.5 minutes it lulls for a few seconds as Fripp adds some mellotron to create a murky, dark, eerie feel, and then Fripp snaps back into the rhythm, and it smashes your faculties to the extreme. It's like an ocean hitting the rocks. Hard progressive rock, yes, maybe, but just bloody good, I say. There's an uncredited cello somewhere, but I'd invite you to try and find it. So to track 2, Fallen Angel, it opens with some exquisite guitar. I think Wetton's vocals above a cornet and oboe is absolutely delicious, and Fripp's delicate acoustic and electric solos just lull you into a relaxed slumber after the first track onslaught. It's 6 minutes of Idalia, and the surge is monumental from the Mellotron. I think that it's a Mellotron. It sounds sax-like to me, but the Mellotron is credited to Fripp. The midsection is a thing of beauty, and another surge then beckons with Wetton's vocals perfectly complementing the melody and Fripp performing magic on the frets. The final minute is a cacophony of drums, guitars and horns of various sort, but it never loses its beauty. So to track 3 then on side 1, One More Red Nightmare, and it's a return to the terror of track 1, and it turns the vigour on. Bruford turns the vigour on in the drums and cymbals up a few notches just before we set off at a terrific pace, with Wetton running for his life. It's chapter 2 repeat intro, and that acceleration even more so. Listen to Fripp's guitar and Mellotron as it turns it all on, and then it slows to a blues with the alto sax played by Ian MacDonald joining Fripp in a duet that cuts your throat. The sax is a wondrous sound with wah-wah guitar and slipping percussion, hauntingly spectacular. It's 7 minutes of wondrous sounds, and then back to rewind on the intro before chapter 3, and I never get sick of taking in this first side. It's about 20 minutes of King Crimson in there. It's probably their best in their entire body of work. And then we hit an emergency stop as you wake up in horror. Wonderful, wondrous. So to side 2, just 2 selections on here. It starts off with Providence. This is very avant-garde, very different from the rest of the album. It's very much for the connoisseur. There's some tasteful violin by David Cross, who also gets a writing credit for this song. It reminded me a little bit of some of the extravagance of Amagama, particularly Nick Mason's contributions. To be honest, it gets pretty boring, although there are nods to the Mahavishnu Orchestra through Bruford's drumming, which sounds a little bit like Cobham. And then Fripp's work is also similar to McLaughlin. But then we get to the magnificent Starlight. It has some of the most beautiful guitar I've ever heard. And the sax is added to the texture with Wetton's voice, such a big part of the melody and the emotion. The piece is in parts, so it links in to much more of an avant-garde jazz phase that prepares you slowly for the increased tempo. The rhythm section emerges with Fripp's siren-like guitar and Wetton's thunderous bass, and Bruford's violent drumming leads to a volcanic eruption of sound. It's truly mesmerizing, and best with headphones on. The Fripp solos jump in and out with the sax solo above a frantic rhythm, reminiscent in parts of Nightmare on side one, before bridging back and accelerating again with buzzsaw-like guitar and drumming unlike anything you've ever heard before. And then it glides back to an intricate beauty of the intro, but slowly it climbs back up to earth to conclude. It's a magnificent piece of work, and I recently saw it live on YouTube from a recent concert a few years back in Japan. Worth taking a look at. So what have we got then? We've got a fitting finale to this version of King's Crimson. Of course, there were others after this. It's got a companion piece, Starless and Bible Black, and I'll review that a little later. That was also released in '74 with the same band. So there we have it then. Red, King Crimson, released in 1974. Please get to listen to it. It's an extraordinary piece of work.